great book I recommend by Ben Horowitz. He's a very, very successful startup founder. He started LoudCloud that he has sold to HP for $1 billion. He's now a very famous VC at Andreessen Horowitz. He wrote this great book talking about the hard things about hard things. And so yes, there's a lot of glamour in doing startups, but it's also very, very hard. So what makes startups so great and easy where almost anybody can do a startup right now? That means there's just so much more competition in startups because everybody can do a startup now. The number of startups has actually mushroomed and ballooned across the globe. And so any sector and any area that you're actually working in, there's probably 50 or 60 competitors across the globe, maybe working on the same problem that you're focusing on. And so there's good and bad of this. And the other part too is getting to so-called product to market fit is actually really hard, right? Because there's a lot more startups out there for every single competitive sector. And because of that, there's just a lot more noise. So customers have a hard time figuring out like which product and which service should I actually use. And so the one thing that I would say is just that you have to invert your thinking, right? And so I think the problem that there's these myths in startup land where a lot of people think like, well, all I need is basically to go build this thing and then build it and they will come. And this is actually a big problem. So Seth Godin, who's a very famous marketer in the US, he says, don't find customers from your product, find products for your customers. You have to change your thinking. And you have to be, this term called customer-centric. I think this is actually a big problem in Silicon Valley. I think this is the big problem in the tech industry overall, of just people who build without actually understanding and actually thinking about who their customers are. And so there actually has been a huge revolution in actually how startups are being made. And a lot of this is, this comes from, like Moneyball, from Lean Startup, Little Bets, and these are all great books if you're interested in reading. But what has happened is that now there's driving in a little bit more idea of experimentation, and there's been a lot more methodology now at actually how to build tech startups properly. And so I'll go through this very quickly, right? So Lean Startup, it's one of the best books. If you have not read this book, you should read this book and practice it. And The Dirty Secret in Silicon Valley, a lot of people say they've read this book, but they have not read the book and they don't follow this practice.